and all that you need to know about what's going on, because it's one thing that we're talking about today: voting.
Voting.
Good afternoon, Georgia.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am so excited as always to be on the GA for Justice. Again, my name is Georgia F. Allen. I'm the host today. And welcome, listening audience. Whether you're listening live right now or if you're going to listen later, we thank you for being one of our listeners here. We always want to thank the one and the only Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker,
What?
Mr. Henderson Vaughn.
All righty, all righty.
He is our producer, our engineer, our director, our owner, who provides us with the opportunity to share information on the best of the 757 WVDM radio show.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as always, GA for Justice, we'd like to provide you with a conversation for information, a conversation for correction, as well as a conversation for transformation. It is extremely important that we get the information out to the community, but that we get accurate information out to the community. And so I'm excited today. Again, we are talking about voting. Elections always matter. Voting always matter. And a lot of times people are like, why should I vote? And folks used to love to say, well, we fought for the right to vote. Our families fought for the right to vote. Our families marched for our right to vote. And in many instances, our families and folks before us died for the right to vote. And yeah, that's a reason to vote. It's a very, very important reason to vote. But I always like to say, because folks work so hard, it's why we vote. To keep us, folks work so hard to keep us from voting is the real reason that we must vote. Because anytime someone is trying to take something from you, that's value. If they didn't value it, they'd give it away. They would give it away. They could care less whether you voted or not. So I say to my listening audience, we vote because they fight so hard to keep us from voting. So elections always matter. Voting always matter. This year in Virginia Beach, there's going to be a slight change. There's district voting versus the not true at large system, because we've never had a true at large system. We always had a hybrid system. But now we have a district system where there are actually 10 districts. But of course, since this is the first time that we're going to be voting in the district races, we won't have to vote for all 10 districts all at the same time. We'll be voting in more or less incremental ways. So I want to encourage you to pay close attention to the election because, of course, as always, they really don't want you to vote. They want to control everything. Voting is about control. Voting is about power. So if you care anything whatsoever about having power, vote. If you care anything whatsoever about being able to leverage the power that you have, vote. So today, we are going to just focus on voting. We're going to talk to you a little bit about groups in our community who have been working diligently to ensure that we have candidates that we can vote for. Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
It's important to have candidates to vote for. A lot of times we vote, but we're not sure who we should vote for. Excuse me a minute. I just moved a document in front of my screen that I need to move over.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see me. Okay. And as a matter of fact, looks like you can see both at the same time. But anyway, I just want to let you know that the Virginia Beach APAC, who has been around, I want to say since 2004, has been actively and diligently working to make sure that you know who they endorse so that you can identify the candidates that the APAC feel will best support your concerns, best support who you the areas and the things that you are very concerned about, and support what you'd like to see changed here in the city of Virginia Beach. And that's critically important because this is going to be probably one of the most important elections in the city of Virginia Beach, because for the first time, we have a real opportunity to change who sits on our school board, who sits on our city council, and we have the opportunity to elect persons of our choice to represent our interests. And so people are like, well, if they're only representing one district, what about the rest of the city? But that's where that's where cooperation and collaborative working comes into play. If they can't serve on city council and realize that serving on city council for a district also means that you still have to make sure that our city runs smoothly, then guess what? They may be the wrong candidate, and should they get elected, you may have to remove them. That is so important. Don't look at election as a one and done. Look at election as we're going to get you on council, but we're also going to monitor your behavior. We're going to also monitor how you vote. We're also going to monitor whether or not, when issues come up that affects all of us, how you stand on those issues. But we also want to know that you're capable enough to be able to work with other city council members and other school board members to ensure that the things that are needed in your community, the things that are needed in your district, in that neighborhood, that those things come into fruition. And that is why it is critically important that we have strong members on these on city council to work on behalf of the people, because we've had plenty of people working on behalf of the rich and the richer. And so now we need people that's going to work on behalf of all of us and not just some of us. So with that being said, why is it so important? Well, guess what? City councils determine your tax rate. That's why it's important that you have the right people serving on city council so that we can make sure that they're not gouging us when it comes to our taxes, because they want to maybe do some more work for others in the community. They're only focusing perhaps on the oceanfront, or they're focusing simply on the town center, or they're focusing on one particular area of the city. Maybe that Shore Drive area, maybe that's where their money is going. So what we can do now is, by having someone that represents Bayside and represent Centerville and actually represent SeaTac. This is no longer I'm going to live in this part of the city because I like it over here, and I can get this big house over here. I can run at large, but all of my effort is on one area of the city and one area only. Now we can literally hold these people accountable, because it's a lot easier to vote them in, but it's also easy to vote them out if they're not representing our needs, our concerns, and what we want in our neighborhood. I believe in Centerville, they have been looking for recreation center. Well, now, if you elect the candidates that the APAC and Do the Right Thing and others have endorsed, now you have a cohesive group of people that you can say, look, I'm holding you accountable. Centerville has been asking for the recreation center. Let's see if we can't get that across the finish line, because we no longer have the pushback from the folks who took the money to put it on the oceanfront, who took the money to rebuild the Cavalier when it was privately owned. And so they came up with this public-private partnership. Public-private partnership when this guy owns the Cavalier, and now they're taking our tax dollars to help redo the Cavalier. Maybe that wasn't a good use of our tax dollars. Maybe our tax dollars could have been used for the building of Centerville. Where now, if you have a more diverse group of people serving on the city council, you can have those conversations instead of the city council members who are bought and paid for by none other than developers, bought and paid for by certain realtors, bought and paid for by the restaurant association, the Realtors and Developers Association. All of these different groups have money. And what do? They go out and they buy candidates. Well, guess what? Now that the district is smaller, a plumber can run for a district in the city of Virginia Beach. And chances are we'll have a stronger chance of getting elected to office and bring their expertise to sit down on council, along with the other expertise, working in cohesiveness with one another, working together to make a difference on behalf of the masses instead of on behalf of the few. So, once again, elections always matters. So we're counting on you to go to the polls on November the 8th. And right now, guess what? You can vote early. First day of in-person voting was September the 23rd. And you can vote early until November the 5th. So we want to encourage you. We want to encourage you to get out there and vote. As a matter of fact, I should be voting tomorrow. And taking my ballot to the poll, my goldenrod ballot to the poll, and voting on my candidate that's been endorsed, so that we can make sure that we're voting for persons who represent our interests. These candidates have been thoroughly vetted. We only have one candidate that was unopposed, so there was almost like not a real chance to compare this candidate to another candidate because they didn't have any opposition. So with that being said, I want you guys to pay close attention to who the Virginia Beach APAC has endorsed. Okay, in the city of Virginia Beach, on Virginia Beach City Council, in District 1, Melissa Peck. Melissa Peck was the best candidate that interviewed, that was willing to work on issues that the Black community is concerned about. Melissa Peck, District 1. District 2, Paul Tidkamp, and it's spelled Telkamp. If you live in District 2 in the city of Virginia Beach, Paul Tidkamp was the one that was endorsed. If you lived in District 4, Dr. Amelia Ross Hammond. She is running unopposed, so there was no candidate to interview. So therefore, she interviewed, she did well, she got the endorsement. In District 6, Worth Remick. That's how his name is going to be listed on the ballot. So if you live in District 6, you want to make sure that you vote for Worth Remick. And why? Because he was endorsed by the Virginia Beach APAC, who has been out there on the front lines for years, encouraging people to go to the polls and vote. For District 8, Mr. John Andrews. District 8, John Andrews. And again, these are all city council candidates. District 9, Josh Shulman. District 9, Josh Shulman. District 10, Jennifer Rouse. District 10, Jennifer Rouse. And yes, that is Mr. Aaron Rouse spouse. I like the Aaron Rouse spouse is Jennifer Rouse. But I also like the fact that Miss Jennifer Rouse is also Jennifer Valentine Ross. And I like that because her father used to be my OBGYN until he retired recently. And so she is someone that grew up here in Virginia Beach. Her father has served the city of Virginia Beach for decades. There are countless numbers of babies that he delivered. So we like to see someone who is an educator, who teaches at Tidewater Community College. She's a strong advocate on behalf of our community. We know her as being the daughter of Richard Valentine, Dr. Richard Valentine, and someone who has worked diligently in our community. So we have an opportunity to select new people, new fresh faces on our city council, folks who have not been bought and paid for already by all the various developers, by the restaurant and hotel motel association down on the ocean front. These are persons who can make decisions based upon what their district, what their citizen base want, instead of doing the same thing over and over again. For Virginia Beach School Board, the APAC has endorsed District Number 2 because there is no candidate in District 1. District 1 is more or less a special election on city council, but it does not apply to the school board. Let me say that again. When you go to the polls on November the 8th, or when you go to the polls early, there will be no school board candidate for District Number 1. The gentleman that is currently serving was an appointed council member. Therefore, he has to run at this election cycle. The school board candidate, we're going to start with District Number 2, which is Kim Melnick. She received the endorsement. District Number 4 is Stacy Martin. Stacy Martin is a new candidate to the field. But what I like about Stacy Martin is she dropped out of school so she can relate. She went back, she got her GED. She went back again and she got her education, got more education. So she is someone that can relate to all facets of the community. We all may have children who have dropped out or family members who have dropped out of school, but that did not mean that they could not achieve greatness. So with Stacy, I think we have someone on school board, and guess what? She has a child in our school system. She is not somebody that's sitting on school board that doesn't even have a child in the school system. She is not sitting on school board who sent her child to private schools because she felt like, well, I'll just go ahead on and send my children off to private school. They don't really have to go to the Virginia Beach public school system. Stacy's child is in Virginia Beach public school system. So that makes her an even better candidate because, one, she dropped out. But guess what? She dropped in. She came back and she got her GED. So anybody who knows that America is supposed to be a place for second chances, why wouldn't you vote for a Stacy Martin, District Number 4? If you're in District Number 4, Stacy Martin has been endorsed by the Virginia Beach African American Political Action Council. That's VB-APAC. In District 6, Sharon Felton. Sharon Felton also grew up here. She's from the SeaTac area. She's a lifelong member of the community. She worked at Old Dominion University for a number of years, serving in the library. So she knows a little bit about books, all types of books. So when you hear people talk about books, it might be helpful to have a librarian sitting on your school board. Carolyn Rye, District Number 8, has also received the endorsement of the Virginia Beach APAC. District 8, Carolyn Rye, who currently serves as the chair of the school board, and Kim Melnick as the assistant chair or the vice chair. I always get that confused because there's so many chairs. There's co-chairs, vice chairs, you know. But Carolyn Rye, she is our current chair of the school board. And so we want to encourage you to put it back in there another term. District number 9 is Erica Guest. Erica is a new person, but she was an excellent interviewer. She wanted what is best for the community. She's willing to listen. You want educators who are willing to listen and not feel like they're going to make all the decisions and not hear from the people. All that foolishness and fussing before with regards parents can't tell anything or parents can't talk to the school system. That is not the case. There are parents who want everything to go one way and not include other people. So those were the parents that you may have heard going down to the school board meetings and yelling and screaming along with members on the school board going along with that foolishness. So we need to remove some of that foolishness from school board so that we can have meetings that are meetings where persons can come there, they can voice their concerns, they can voice their opinion. And keep in mind, on the school board, they listen. They are not supposed to comment. But we did have school board members who actually commented or made all right.
I don't know what that was.
Hey. But
You know, Facebook and them get funny when it comes to politics. They'll cut you off.
okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm not going to get too deep in the politics. Okay,
Yeah,
if that's what they're concerned about, and I didn't call out any names.
That's what I'm saying. But I
All
never
I
had this.
said was that some people misbehave at school board meetings.
Yeah.
Is that not true? Did I call any names? Did I call one political party? Absolutely no.
Right.
Absolutely no. We operate in a nonpartisan environment, but we will call out actions and behaviors. Again, this is about correction. This is about providing information. It's about correction. So anyway,
yeah.
The next candidate, and again, to the listening audience, our school board and our city council are nonpartisan elections. Now, if folks put political parties on their sign, that's on them. That is not Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is a nonpartisan election, and we look at candidates based upon what service will they bring to the community and to the city as a whole. Did you hear me? Yeah. We look at candidates with regards to what services will they bring to the community, to their districts, and what service will they bring as a whole to the entire city of Virginia Beach. That's important to us. Finally, district number 10 is Mr. Kim Bentley II. I want to repeat that because a lot of people are going to see Kim and they're going to think it's going to be a lady. No, it is Mr. Kim Bentley II. And I do believe they have him listed as Mr. Kim Bentley. Again, this is district number 10 for school board. Why is it important to have some idea about the candidates that you support? It's critically important because when you hear what they share with regards to what they intend to address, what they tend to push, you can now hold them accountable. So election day is November the 8th, but accountability starts immediately following. So we don't want you to disengage. We want you to become more engaged. Now that you have district representatives, we want you to go to your school board meetings and your city council meetings. Voting is important, but engagement is also important. And the reason why is if they see you at council meetings, if they see you at school board meetings, you'll find that they're more willing to address the concerns that you have than if you're at home and you're spouting off to your family member, or you're spouting off to your friend, or you're standing in your neighborhood and you're moving your head to side. Well, that doesn't work because they need to see your face. And so I hope that with this election, all communities will become more engaged, that we will begin to go to council meetings more, that we will begin to go to school board meetings more. And keep in mind, there are a ton of boards, commissions, committees that the city of Virginia Beach has. And guess what? You can come to those meetings too as a guest. Listen to what decisions are being made. My goal is that everybody becomes more engaged than they have been in the past. Doesn't mean that you have to go to every school board meeting, every city council meeting, every board, commission, or committee meeting, but it's helpful to do one or two things. Attend in person or pull up the videos of these various meetings. And if they don't have videos, pull up the minutes. Read what's going on in your city. Get a better understanding, and then form your own group and coalition so that you guys can talk about these things. And if there are things that you don't understand, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, call. Build relationships within your community. Because guess what? Just like we have an election this year, we're going to continue to have elections. And the more knowledgeable you are, the better chance that you have to become that next candidate. Because we are looking for candidates. We are looking to groom candidates. We are looking to develop candidates. And we are looking to identify potential candidates who may be able to run in that next upcoming election. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. And let the city know that you like the opportunity to vote for persons who live in your district. Most people don't know this, but on school board, they had 3 members of the school board who all live within walking distance of each other's houses. Well, how is that representative of the entire city? If 3 of them lived that close together, and at the time we had a 7 district system with 4 at-large seats. It sounds to me like about 1/3 of the school board lived in the same district. Do you think they were really overly interested in representing the other areas? So these are the type of things that we're trying to educate you about. This is what we are trying to educate you about, so that you know that when we're fighting, we're not fighting just for ourselves personally or our children or our grandchildren. We're fighting for the collective. We're fighting for the collective. And with that being said, I know I just pushed out a lot of information, but Henderson is my cohort, my partner, the one that keeps me on track, that makes sure that I get this information out to our community. Share with us, what you have to share about what's going on in the city of Virginia Beach and the changes that are coming into play.
Well,
Share.
the changes that are going on, people got to get out to the polls.
Absolutely.
I don't care how many changes people, the city make, state
Mhm.
make, or the national make. If you don't go to the polls, you ain't gonna change nothing. You're giving them the power to do what they want to do when you sit home. Well,
Mhm.
my vote don't count, but it does count. We done had elections right here in this state where they had to draw straws to give the person
Absolutely.
that, to see who was going to win it. So we can't keep doing this same thing and we're going to keep getting the same results. And with our young people is your future. I'm 70 years old,
Right.
and when you get to a certain age, you know that you're living to die. But
Right.
what's your legacy? What are you going to do to
Mhm.
prepare the next generation? And
Absolutely.
that's why, bringing you on the show and having you to be able to, because you know more than me, because I don't deal in everything. I deal in trying to use the technology to bring people such as yourself. You was the president of the NAAC for a number of years, and I've been following you ever since I met you. And you have run for city council, and you did things in the community to show it's not about you, it's about the next generation.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's why we're here. We're not here just to hold a conversation about, hey, I got this or I done that, but to show young people you have to come up and step up to the plate now.
Absolutely. We've
And
been out here working a long time. Henderson and
mm,
we have been out here. We have been going to school board meetings. We have been going to city council meetings. We have spoken before school board. We have spoken before city council. And we have pushed the envelope to go about getting some changes in Virginia Beach. We have the Williams Farm Recreation Center because we pushed that envelope.
yeah,
And if we can push the envelope, guess what? To our young people, if you want that um, room open where you can make your own videos and uh, go in the recording studio, we need you to go to the recreation center. But we also need you to call up your representative on city council and say, you know what? That rec center been here for a minute, and we don't see you making an effort to hire persons to work in the recording studio so
right.
we can be able to go and record our video or record our song or record our rap, any of those things. We don't see that's happening. So if the other generation was willing to fight to open that door, I need you to fight to ensure that they hire the necessary staff so that you can enjoy the fruit of the labor that came before you. And believe it or not, a young person, you can have a big impact. And if you don't believe it, ask the folks who participated in Black Lives Matter that they have an impact. Ask the young people who were at Stoneman Douglas school who decided that they would get actively involved in the political side because they were upset with the amount of gun violence that's taking place in our school buildings. Those young people began to push Congress to begin to push their elected officials and legislators and say, we want a change. And maybe you don't see it happen with a snap of the finger, but guess what? Movement is happening and change is a coming. So, with that being said, I feel like you are the biggest leverage that we have because there's so many of you, and we want you to be active and we want to assist you, but we want you to take the lead. We want you to take the lead. I know a lot of times you feel like the baby boomer generation don't want to listen to young people. We do. Share with us. We want to listen to you as well. And we want to ask you, I ask this question all the time: what can I do to assist you? because I don't want to feel like I'm the person that has to do everything for you. Because if I do it all for you, how will you learn how to do things for yourself? So it's politics is the same thing. People kept asking me, why don't you run? Why don't you run? Because I believe there are younger people out here who can also run for office, who can also serve our community. We just need to find them. So if you're listening to me, I want to know who you are. If you're listening to me and you're not one of the young people, but you know young people, put a message out there so that we know who they are and help us get in touch with each other. Help us to connect. Elections matters. They always matter. Voting matters. Voting always matters. And I share that with this audience today because I'm very passionate about elections. Now, with regards to the election for Congress this year, I did my own research on the two candidates for Congress. And one is quite troubling. And I'm not going to tell you who's who in terms of giving out names, since Facebook is very upset about that. But what I will say is I have grave concern with regards to the government being in the bedroom. One candidate feels that the government should be able to tell people whether or not they should have abortion. And again, I always preface this. I personally do not believe in abortions, but that's my personal opinion. But I don't feel that Uncle Sam should be in your bedroom with his arm folded, watching what you do. And basically, that's what they're trying to tell you. Do they tell you next, well, you can no longer have Viagra? Do they tell you next, you can no longer have condoms? Do they tell you next, you can't take birth control? What else is the government going to do in people's bedroom? I think that's a bridge a little bit too far to cross. So what I say to you is, while that is not my only issue, that is one of my major issues, is someone telling another group of people, no, you can't do this. And the reason why it's so troubling for me, and I'm just going to get right in your face, the reason why it's so troubling to me is because a lot of the men who claim that they don't want women to have the right to abortion, they cheat on their wives and have their girlfriend have an abortion. Okay?
Hello.
They decide that their daughter can have an abortion because they want her to be pristine when it's time to get married. So they secretly hide this and they pay many dollars for them to get the best doctor. And they have their daughter have an abortion. And don't believe the lie when they say, well, I think they should just have the baby and if necessary, give it up for adoption. Don't believe that lie. Their daughters are getting abortions. Their daughters then put on that white dress at the time of marriage and act like Miss Pristine. Okay? That's the reality. So let's deal in reality. That is the reality. And the same people that say they don't like this group or that group or whatever. One guy was caught in his office having sex with his with his assistant, who was also what? A guy. But he voted against the policy with regards to whether or not gay people can get married. But he was on his desk having him
they were doing research.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll call it research. They were in his office doing research. They got caught. Okay. So I say that to my listening audience. Don't believe all the lies that one group tell you that they're moral, they're principled, They don't believe in this and they don't believe in that. They just don't believe that you should do it. But they believe they can do anything that they want and get away with it because they have enough money to do so. Once again, I'm Georgia Allen. This is GA for Justice. The comments are not necessarily that of the provider of this service, okay?
Right.
But what I'm saying to you is truth. That's all I'm saying to you. You still have to make your own decisions. Also, with regards to this election integrity thing that our current administration in the Commonwealth of Virginia is talking about, I started digging to try to find out how many people committed fraud in the Commonwealth of Virginia over the last 10, 15 years. It was virtually none. But you know what I found? I found his 17-year-old son trying to vote when he didn't have he wasn't a legitimate voter. That's what I found. So when people keep talking about fraud, it's probably them that's committing it.
It takes one to know one.
When people say, well, I don't believe in this or that or the third, chances are they're doing the things that they claim they don't believe in. So be very careful when you hear people talk about this group, that group. Women shouldn't do this. This group shouldn't do that. Be careful. Most of those people, not all, but I should say many of those people are doing the very thing that they claim they don't believe in. I'm still wondering about my boy down in South Carolina, both of them. Mm-hmm. I'm still wondering about both of them. I don't think either one of them are married. I don't know. I don't know what their lives are. I don't know. But I just say that, I throw that out there so that you can start to think for yourself. Okay? Maybe there's nothing going on. Maybe they're just buddies, just friends.
Yeah, they got the same clue.
Could be. But you get concerned when you hear people be so adamant about you can't do this or don't do that. And then they go in and they press the button on a vote. And then you find out that the same thing they voted against are the same things that they do behind closed doors, supposedly in secret. In secret. These are the things that they're doing, that they're entertaining in secret. So voting is important because if you don't vote people in office who will at least have some common sense, who will at least abide by some type of guidelines, you're going to see the same things happening over and over again. And that is fighting from within, destroying yourself internally so that it makes it easy for external people to completely take you down. But most of it is done internally. The fights are generally within our own communities, our own cities, throughout our nation. They are internal fights. So what we want to do is we want to get back on track. And I see Virginia Beach as a pace setter. This can be a pace setter. This can be a change not only in our city, but once other people see what we were able to achieve, what we were able to accomplish, the changes we have been able to make in our city, where we take this government, where it's now owned by the people, it's done for the people, we can find out who's getting all these big contracts, these CIPs, they're called, Capital Improvement Project contracts, where they're giving millions upon millions of dollars to certain corporations, certain business owners, and others don't have a real opportunity, a real chance to bid on the contract or a real opportunity to even get close to receiving a contract with the city. Now we can have people on city council who can take a look at how many change orders have been submitted, who can take a look at over the last 20 years, how much waste have been lost, how much money has been lost through waste because they gave contracts to contractors who lined the pockets of our city council members instead of doing the project to the best of their ability. What they do is they do these sorry contracts and wasteful contracts, and now we have to pay them over and over again because guess what? They have this little thing called change orders. Let me submit a change order. I didn't get, the contract is overrun. It's a cost overrun, and so I need more money. It's politics. It's about voting. It's about elections. It's important that you get out here, that you vote. I gave you a list of people to vote for. I need you to do the next step, and that is to go to the polls and vote. Election day is November the 8th. Everybody who is legitimate to vote, who have gone out, registered, all your paperwork is correct, do your due diligence. Go to the polls, vote, but don't just vote for yourself. Vote on behalf of all those children who are not yet 18 years old. Vote on behalf of a friend or a relative who unfortunately got caught up in the criminal justice system for various reasons and then no longer have their right to vote. So by you voting, your one vote actually may count for 20. Your one vote may actually count for 20 people who are not able to vote. So see your vote as power. Don't just see it, oh, well, I'll just vote. See the power behind your vote. And get to know your neighbors. Get to know people of like-mindedness, that you can work together and say, okay, here's an issue in my community. I live in this neighborhood. We've been waiting for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years to have a road repaired, to have speed bumps put in our community or put on the road. Okay. And that hasn't occurred. Which one of these candidates will be my representative? And let's talk about that again and again and again. Get your fellow neighbors to pick up the phone and call them. Call your elected officials and say, you know what? We were promised a speed bump to slow this traffic down. We haven't gotten it yet. Call them and tell them you want it put in. Now you have the ability to call your representative who actually lived there. He's not at large living over in some other neighborhood somewhere. He actually lived there in your community. And guess what? You can get to them. You can talk to them. If they don't call a town hall meeting, you get your neighbors together and you call one and you invite him, but demand that he or she shows up at the meeting. You know why? Because you're voting in a district. You're voting in a district. You finally have representation, or you will have representation. So I want to encourage you. This is a brand new day. Folks have been fighting for you for years. For years. Folks have gone up to Richmond to fight for districts on behalf of the city of Virginia Beach so that the constituent base, so that the citizenry can have people elected to office who will represent their interests. But the nice part about it, the real nice part about it, is it's easier to remove them from office if they are not genuinely representing your interests. So I am excited about this year's election. I'm excited about the opportunity for all of us to get involved, for all of us. Knock on your neighbor's doors and say, you know what? If we don't do anything else this year, let our Christmas present be we elected folks to office that represent us. Let that be your Christmas present. Use elections this year as this is Christmas. All the people who celebrate Christmas, I don't generally celebrate Christmas. I celebrate Kwanzaa, but Kwanzaa talks about working together, collective work and responsibility. Well, voting is collective work and responsibility. So we need to work together to ensure that we have the best representation possible. But then once we get them elected to office, we need to help them. We need to support them. When they do well, if we can go down to city council when we're concerned about something, we surely can go down to city council and say, hey, I'm pleased that my elected official is working on behalf of our community, working on behalf of our district, and we can begin to see things change in our district. I'm excited that when they went into office and they saw this surplus, they also looked at the over expenditures and they said, okay, we can increase the surplus by reducing how wasteful the spending is. And as we do that, we can say, okay, 10% goes back into the community, 20% goes back into the community. But you want to have some extra on the books, and I'll tell you why. Hurricanes come, flooding comes. There are all types of things. So don't just look at it as, well, if they got all the money, send it all back. No, you want some money there. You want a cushion. Okay. See, I try to do things from a standpoint of common sense. Common sense. I just try to use common sense. Okay. I'm not anybody special. I'm just someone who believes in policy, procedures, but I also believe in processes. I believe if you use the right processes, if you use them for the right reason, you can have a better outcome. So election this year in the city of Virginia Beach, it's about district voting. You have an opportunity to select the candidate of your choice, the candidate that will work on your behalf. The candidate is not beholding to some type of special interest group who bought them and paid for them. So let's clean up the mess in Virginia Beach. Let's make us a city that is respectful and respectable, and let other people look at what we do here and say, we want to copy it. We want to duplicate it. In some instances, it's okay to be copied or duplicated. In some instances, not so much. But in an instance like this, when we're looking to clean up government, when we're looking to operate in a manner that makes it better for all of us, we're not trying to be selfish or anything, but we want things to be done in the right way. It's critically important. It's critically important for our children, for our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. If anybody have any great-great-great-grandchildren, that's fine too. I know out in West Virginia, they start out at age 13. By the time they're 26, they have a kid. By the time they're 39, they got grandkids. And so they have children very, very early, have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. And so, shoot, by the time they're 65 years old, they probably have 5 generations. And that's not anything unusual. It's par for the course.
Don't look under my head.
And that's okay. But guess what? Those kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids, they need a government that works for them too. Okay. The other thing that we looked at when we talked to our candidates, we looked at affordability when it comes to housing. We looked at workforce housing. We looked at how they felt about that. We looked at how they felt about community policing. Are you are you interested in ensuring that we get more people in our community willing to serve on the police force so that they know the community? If they're serving on the police force and there's 2 to a community of all of 40 some thousand people, guess what? That's a lot easier thing to measure than it is if they're in a city of 400 and some thousand people. Okay. Maybe there's 4 people in that community of 48,000. That changes the numbers. That changes the discrepancy in terms of how big that that number is in terms of them working within the community. So those are the things you want to look at. You want to look at, can we have more community police officers? Can we have those community police officers speaking more with our young people, working with our young people and educating them so that hopefully those young people now don't see the police as such a bad guy or a bad lady, but they see an opportunity where they can be of service. Because when I grew up, the word was protect and serve. It was, how do we work together? How do we make things better? So when kids were little, they didn't mind having that police badge, going to the store and their parents buying them a police badge. They didn't mind having that fireman's red hat in the fire truck. We need to get back to that. We need our kids to want to be the fireman, to want to be the police officer, to want to work in their community to protect and serve, not look at the citizenry as somebody who is supposed to just bow down and worship them, because that's not what it's supposed to be designed. They may have intentionally done that initially, but now with your vote, we can change that as well. So with that being said, again, we are coming to a close of our show today. Election day is November the 8th. You still have an opportunity to vote early. Voting early started on September the 23rd, but it ends on November the 5th. We are asking you to make sure you know where your polling place is. So you can start now. Call, check, make sure you know where your polling place is, because provisional ballots do not always get counted. So we don't want you to lose your power. We don't want you to lose your leverage because you didn't ensure that you're voting in the right precinct so that your vote counts 100%. To my audience, we love you. We want you to be successful. We want our city to be successful. And we're encouraging you to go vote early and vote for those persons who cannot vote for themselves. With that being said, this is Georgia Allen, GA for Justice, every Thursday at 12 o'clock noon on WVDM, the best of the 757. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Henderson so we can close us out. Thank you so much.
No doubt. Well, thank you again for watching, and share this video with other people on your sites, and so they can have that information on who to cast their vote for in what district. Remember, GA for Justice is every Thursday from 12 until 1. And don't forget, hosted by the one and only the former president of the NAACP in Virginia Beach, Miss Georgia Allen, GA for Justice. Until next week, we bid you a good evening.